What if everything you believe is a lie? Not just the news you hear, not just the filters on social media, but your entire reality, your memories, your identity, your sense of self, nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion. Who are you? And more importantly, who told you that? We're going to peel back the layers of reality, the philosophy, science, simulation theory, and everything in between, to face one of the oldest and most disturbing questions of all. What if the world around you is not what it seems? Let's rewind a few centuries. The year is 1641. A man sits alone in a cold study, pen trembling in his hand. His name is René Descartes, and he is doubting everything. What if a malicious demon is deceiving me? What if all my senses are lies? This wasn't just paranoia. Descartes realized that everything he knew was built on assumptions. The world outside him? His senses could be wrong. His body? That could be a dream. Even math, the sacred language of certainty, could be manipulated by some malevolent force. So he stripped it all away. He questioned his beliefs, his memories, even his own body. And at the bottom of that rabbit hole, he found one thing he couldn't doubt. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Even if everything else was a lie, the thinking mind remained. But here's the terrifying twist. What Descartes couldn't have predicted was how accurate his demon analogy might be. In our age of digital illusion, fast forward to the present. Your life is flooded with screen simulations and pixels pretending to be real. You wake up, scroll, swipe, listen, watch, absorb. Every second your brain receives millions of inputs, and every single one of them could be fabricated. In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom posed a haunting argument. If advanced civilizations can create simulated realities, and if they're likely to create many more simulated people than real ones, then, statistically speaking, you are probably inside one. Let that sink in. If simulation theory is true, your memories might be files, your emotions, algorithms, your dreams, code generated to keep you docile. And the kicker? You wouldn't know the difference, because a perfect simulation doesn't just look like reality, it feels like it. It is reality, to the one inside it. Like a goldfish in a bowl. Can it imagine the ocean? We could be digital ghosts in an unseen machine, and all the while, we believe we're free. But this idea that we're trapped in illusions isn't new. Over 2,000 years ago, Plato told the story of prisoners in a dark cave. They had been chained since birth and stared only at the wall in front of them. Behind them, puppet masters cast shadows on the wall. To the prisoners, the shadows were reality, the only reality. Until one prisoner breaks free, he turns around. He sees the fire, the puppets, the truth. He climbs out of the cave and into the blinding light of the real world. And when he returns to tell the other, they don't believe him. Worse, they mock him, they fear him, because his truth shattered their reality. Now ask yourself, what cave are you in? What beliefs were handed to you at birth, never questioned? What shadows are you still mistaking for truth? You see, the greatest illusion are the ones we want to believe. Think back to your childhood. How much of your worldview was chosen, and how much was simply handed to you? Your language, your name, the history you were taught, the moral values you were told were universal. Even your preferences, music, food, fashion, were shaped by the world around you before you could even speak. Now consider this. What if your beliefs are simply the echoes of your environment? Every movie you've watched, every headline you've read, every TikTok you've scrolled, it's all data being streamed directly into your consciousness. And most of it is designed not to inform you, but to influence you. This isn't paranoia, it's psychology. Corporations, governments, and algorithms don't need to control your body. They just need to control your attention. He who controls the media controls the mind. Jim Morrison, you're not seeing reality. You're being shown a curated version of it. And the more confident you are that you're right, the more likely you've been successfully programmed. Let's push this further. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and a scientist tells you, you're not who you think you are. You're a brain floating in a vat of fluid, and everything you see, feel, and hear is just electrical signals we've been feeding you. Your whole life, your friends, your memories, your identity, all artificial. Would you believe them? This is the famous brain in a vat thought experiment, a modern version of Descartes' demon but grounded in neuroscience. Here's the kicker. Your brain already lives in the dark. It never sees the outside world. It only receives chemical signals, electrical impulses. It creates a model of reality based on the data it's given. So how do you know you're not already in a vat? You don't. You can't. You just trust. And maybe that trust is the biggest illusion of all. Let's turn inward. Who are you? You might say your name, or your story, or the struggles you've overcome, the choices you've made. But neuroscience says something else. Your self is an illusion created by the brain to maintain coherence. A narrative function, like a movie character whose story gets rewritten every time the reel spins. You change from moment to moment. Thoughts arise and vanish. Memories get distorted, beliefs evolve, and yet you still cling to a fixed identity. A me that must be defended, but what if that me is just a story? Buddhism calls this anatta, the doctrine of no self, a rejection of the ego as a permanent entity. Maybe you're not a being, maybe you're a process, an unfolding stream of consciousness. And the tighter you grip your identity, the more trapped you become. So what do we do? If the world might be fake, if the self might be a story, if truth might be relative, do we collapse into nihilism? Not quite. Because doubt, when wielded wisely, isn't weakness, it's freedom. When you question what you've been told, you begin to see. When you stop clinging to certainty, you start to think. When you admit you don't know, the real search begins. Socrates called himself the wisest man in Athens, not because he knew everything, but because he knew that he knew nothing. And maybe that's the door. The way out of the simulation, not through force or rebellion, but through awareness. The moment you stop accepting the illusion is the moment it starts to crack. So now the question is no longer, what if everything you believe is a lie? The real question is, what will you do? Now that you know it might be, will you chase truth knowing it may never be found? Or will you choose comfort and return to the cave? The choice is yours. It always has been.